Good evening, everyone. So, today we will be starting our lecture of series on mechanics of materials. All right. So, in this lecture, we are going to start with a very basics of mechanics of material, and we will be talking about the concept of stresses and strains in this lecture, and we will be try to covering what are the various type of stresses and strains that are being developed in any body which is subjected to external forces. So let us start with our discussion, and under this subject I will try to cover each and every possible topics along with some solved examples which might be helpful for everyone in developing their concepts. So without wasting any time, let us start with the basics on mechanics of material. So the first topic that we are going to discuss in this lecture is about the concept of stresses. But before we start talking about the concept of stresses, let us very briefly talk about the introduction of mechanics of material, or in short, what we mainly deals in this subject, mechanics of material. See, to other people, this subject can also be known by the name strength of materials. Okay, so but for the sake of simplicity, we will call it as mechanics of material. So let us start with our discussion now. So let us talk about the basics of mechanics of materials. Introduction to mechanics of materials. Now, if we just talk about a basic introduction, a first question that comes in our mind, what is mechanics of material all about, right? So, mechanics of material is nothing but it is a specialized branch of engineering mechanics. Okay, let us call this as MOE, mechanics of MOM, mechanics of materials. It is nothing but it is a branch of, it is a part or branch of engineering mechanics. All right, it is a branch of engineering mechanics in which we will study about the bodies which are subjected to some external loads, and due to the effect of those external loads there will be some sort of deformations produced in the body. So in order to study these type of deformation, we normally deal with the subject mechanics of material, mechanics of materials, or we can say a mechanics of material is a branch of mechanics that studies the internal effect of stresses and strain in a solid body which is subjected to any type of external load. Okay, let me just write it here. MOM, mechanics of material, deals with, it actually deals with internal effects. We actually deals with the internal effect of stresses and strains. Stresses and strains in a solid body, in a solid body. Later on we will see that under some basic assumption we call this solid body as elastic body. All right, we call this as elastic body. So we deal with the internal effects of stresses and strains that is being produced in a solid body which is subjected to some external load. We can write it down as subjected to some external loads. Right, they are subjected to some external load. Now if we just talk about stresses, stresses actually is a quantity which deals with the strength of material, right? Normally, stresses is associated with the strength of a material. Now a question here comes in all of your minds that what is the strength of a material? Strength of a material is nothing but it is the capacity of a material to withstand the externally applied load, or we can say it is the internal resistance of a material, which is nothing but stress, So in short, we can say stress is normally associated with the strength of material from which the body is being made, while on the other hand, strain actually deals with, strain actually is a measure of, is nothing but it is a measure of deformation. It is a measure of deformation. It is a measure of deformation produced in a body due to the external effect, due to the externally applied forces. Okay, so it's a measure of deformation produced in a body due to the application of some external loads. All right, so in mechanics of material we will be dealing with the concept of stresses and strain as the building blocks of this subject, and later on we will see how this concept of stresses and strain can be used to design various type of structures, like we have got beams, we have got columns, we have got trusses, and we have got another type of shafts. So all these type of structures we mainly design by using the concept of stresses and strain. So on the basis of all these points, we can say a thorough understanding of the basic fundamentals, which is based on the concept of stresses and strain, is of vital importance, right? Because most of the engineering codes, rules, design formulas and rules which are normally cited in the engineering course are actually based upon these two concepts. So we cannot study the designing of these members using any other concepts other than stresses and strain. So that is the reason stresses and strain plays a very important role in designing of various type of structures. Okay, now see, the other point which you have to deal in mechanics of material is the equilibrium of a deformation body. All right, we have to deal with the equilibrium condition of a deformable body. Now the question here is, why do we need equilibrium conditions to study the deformations that is being produced in a body? It's because whenever a body is subjected to some external loads, it will actually try to balance the condition which is being produced in a body, or we can say internal forces that is being produced in a body due to the externally applied force. So in short, we can say the body will always try to attain its equilibrium condition under the action of externally applied force. That is the reason the equilibrium equations plays a very major role in understanding the mechanics of material. So we actually cannot neglect this concept, and ultimately we have to apply the equilibrium equations in order to derive the concept of stresses and strains. Okay, so equilibrium conditions are applicable. We can say equilibrium conditions are normally applicable to various situations in mechanics of materials. All right, to various type of situations in mechanics of materials. Let us say MOM. Okay, now before we jump on to the concept of stresses, we have already mentioned that the stresses are normally produced in a body only and only when it is subjected to some externally applied loads. So we have to understand the behavior of these type of loads which are being applied to these type of solid body having any arbitrary shape and size. So we have to know what type of external forces normally the body is subjected to. So before we discuss the concept of stresses, let us discuss about the various type of external forces that we can apply to any body, and on the basis of those forces different type of stresses can be produced in a body. Okay, so let us try to see various type of forces. So before that, let me save this image. Let me share this stress P1. Okay, fine. So let us talk about various type of external loads that a body can be subjected to. So we will be talking about what are the various type of external forces that a body can be subjected to. Normally, any body is subjected to three type of external forces. One is your surface forces, one is your body forces, another one is your body forces, and the last type of forces that is normally act on any body is the concentrated forces. We call it as concentrated forces. See, one thing I have forgot to mention in the starting of the lecture is, in order to understand these concepts, I am already assuming that whosoever will be referring to this lecture, they must have a basic knowledge of engineering mechanics. Okay, so this is my basic assumption. Now let us talk about surface forces first. Okay, now what are the surface forces? Let us talk about surface forces first. Now what are these surface forces? Now these are the type of external forces. These are actually the type of the external forces which are produced on the external surfaces of a body when one surface of one body comes into the contact with the other surface of a body. Due to that interaction, it actually leads to the production of the surface forces, generation of the surface forces over the outermost surface of a body. So what I want to say is, let us say we have got any two arbitrary body. Let us say this is body number 1, and let us say this is body number 2, which is coming in contact with this body, which is coming in contact with body number 1. Let us say this is the main area, this is the main surface which is in contact with body number 2. This is the main surface of a body that comes in contact with body number 2. So if we just try to see what will be the type of forces that will be acting on body number 1 due to the action of body number 2 at this surface, so it will actually somewhat looks like this. Let us draw this surface. So it will actually somewhat looks like this. Say let us this surface, it will actually somewhat looks like this. So these type of surface which are produced on the external surfaces of the body, when one body comes in contact with other body, these type of forces are often referred to as surface forces. Okay, these type of forces are often referred to as surface forces. Now what can be the examples of a surface forces? What could be the example of a surface forces? The example of a surface forces, the best example is the shear force. Okay, these are the type of the surface forces. Now let us say if this contact part of a body, it is having an area A, and let us say we assume that the contact of the body, the contact surface of this body becomes very small, such that it becomes equal to a point. Now there will be only single force acting on this, like this, let us say F. So these type of forces which are act only on one point in a body, that type of forces we call it as concentrated forces. Please remember this. That type of forces we call it as concentrated forces. Normally what happen? See, what could be the best example of this concentrated forces? Normally, if you just try to see the concentrated forces, the best example of concentrated forces could be the linearly distributed load. It could be the linearly distributed load. Now, if you see from the basic concept of engineering mechanics, this linearly distributed load are of two types. One is UDL, we call it as uniformly distributed load, which means that along the whole area the magnitude is actually equal, right? Similarly, the another one is UVL, which is uniformly varying load. So the best example for UVL is triangular load. Let us say we are taking a line element like this over the surface of a specimen. So it will be subjected to these type of forces. So these are also the surface forces, and these are nothing but the linearly distributed forces over a particular line element on the body. Let us say this area becomes so small. This area becomes so small that, wait, let me talk about this triangular load. And this is, we can say, rectangular load. Fine. So actually, if you just see on the diagram, UDL actually somewhat looks like this. It has got a constant magnitude at every point. Now talking about the triangular load, it somewhat looks like this. It has got some certain magnitude, and this magnitude decreases in equal proportion throughout the length of a line element considered. Now see, from the basic engineering mechanics, we have seen that all these type of forces, all the overall effect of all these forces can be represented by a single load that we assume to act through a single point, which is normally the centroid of that body. Okay, so these type of forces are the surface forces, and this can be converted into a linear forces using equilibrium equations, right? Sorry, not linear forces. This can be converted to concentrated forces. This can be converted to concentrated forces by using equilibrium equations. Okay, so all these effects, all these forces can be replaced by a equivalent force of Fs acting through a single point, right? So these type of linearly distributed forces are a type of surface forces which can be converted to concentrated forces by using equilibrium equation, assuming that the area of that point is very small, or we can say limit of delta A always tends to 0. Okay, so all these type of forces comes under the category of concentrated forces and surface forces. Now, what are the best example of a concentrated forces that we study in engineering mechanics? They are the coplanar forces. They are coplanar forces. All right. So they are the coplanar forces, collinear forces, collinear and non-collinear forces. because all these points are assumed to act through a single point. So that is the reason we all these type of forces comes under the category of concentrated forces. Now the third type of forces that a body can be subjected to is the body force. Okay, so now body force is actually a force which acts throughout the whole volume of the element, right? Let us say we have got this body. Let us say we have got this body and it is actually immersed in some fluid like this. Let us say this body is immersed into fluid like this. Okay, so there will be some forces that will be exerted on the whole volume of the body like this. So these type of forces which act on the whole volume of a body, these type of forces we call it as body forces. Now as we have already discussed in this example, the best example of body force is the pressure force, or we can say fluid pressure. Okay, pressure force, or we can say simply fluid pressure. Okay, so let us say this is P, somewhat let us say equal magnitude. So let us name it as P. So this is a type of body force. So if we just try to summarize all these three type of forces, so surface forces are those forces which act through a certain area or through a certain surface on the part, through a certain area or through a certain surface of a body considered. Okay, so that means force per unit area on a part of a body is called it as surface forces. Body forces are those forces in which we assume a single force to act through a single point only. Sorry, concentrated forces. Whereas body forces are those forces which act throughout the whole volume of the element. And the best example of body force is the pressure force. And for the surface forces, we have some examples are shear forces and linearly distributed forces. Now we have also seen that this linearly distributed forces can be converted to the concentrated forces by using equation of equilibrium. So that is the reason you should understand why using equilibrium equations are very, very important. And also please remember all these type of forces. Now on the basis of all these type of forces, we will develop the concept of stresses. Okay, now the other example of a concentrated force is actually the weight of a body. I have forgot to mention this. Weight of a body which we assume to act through a center of gravity or the centroid of the point. So weight of a body is also an example of a concentrated force, right? Now let us save this. Yeah, the next most important thing that we will be dealing in mechanics of material is the support reactions. So let us briefly talk about support reactions also. We have I hope you guys are aware about this. What are the support reactions? Let us talk about support reactions. Now see, these are also a type of surface forces. So we can say the surface forces okay, that developed at the support, that develops at the support, or we can say, or more simply we can say, or point of contact of bodies, or point of contact between bodies, right? Or point of contact between bodies. So these type of forces we call it as reaction forces, right? Let us say for a two-dimensional body, if we are talking about two-dimensional body, which means that a body will be subjected to coplanar system of forces. These are those forces which lies only in one plane, right? So if we assume body to be two-dimensional and coplanar, so normally there are three type of support reactions. One is your fixed support. Now, what can be the best example of a fixed support? If you know from engineering mechanics, it is cantilever beam. It is actually cantilever beam, right? So, what could be the other type of fixed support? Other type of support that we normally study in engineering mechanics is the roller support. Roller support. Okay, now a roller support actually looks like this. Let us say this is our beam and we have got a ball like this here, and this is the surface. Okay, see, there will be only one reaction in the roller support, and that will be this vertical reaction, let us say RH. Now RV. See, if you just try to see this roller will allow the movement of this beam in this direction, to and fro, but it will actually constrain the motion in the vertical direction. So in order to constrain the motion in the vertical direction, so there must be one reaction force that is being produced here. So rigid roller support is only subjected to one type of reaction forces. Okay, or we can say normally it is acting at this point, the point of contact between the ball and the beam. It is actually a little bit surface, but for the sake of simplicity, since the area considered, the area of contact considered is very small, so this can assume to be concentrated force. The other type of support that we come across in our mechanics of material problems and also in engineering mechanics problem is the pin support. It is the pin support. Okay, now see, the pin support actually looks like this. It is somewhat constrained here and oops, sorry. This is a pin here, and here you have a beam attached like this. Okay, you have a beam attached like this. Let us say any other support is also there. Let us, for time being, let us say fixed support. So this will be a case of simply supported beam if it is subjected to some external force F. See, at this point, actually, since this is constrained, the pin only allows the rotation of the beam. Okay, the rotation will not be taking place if it is fixed. Let us say this is free. So it will allow the rotation of a beam, but since this is fixed, it will constrain the motion in vertical and horizontal direction. So in order to constrain the motion in horizontal and vertical direction, so there will be two reaction forces. There will be two reaction forces that will be acting on it. At this point, there will be two reaction forces. Let us say we have got R horizontal and let us say we call this as R vertical. See, we have also forgot about the cantilever beam. What type of reaction forces that will be existing at the fixed support of a cantilever beam? Okay, so let us draw the example of a cantilever beam. It will somewhat looks like this. See, all these are two-dimensional problems, or we can say two-dimensional bodies. Let us say this is your cantilever beam. It is subjected to a force P at the free end. Now since this support is fixed, it can neither move in the horizontal direction nor it can move in the vertical direction. So it means it will be subjected to two type of reaction forces here. Let us say this is R vertical and R horizontal. Now due to this force, the beam will try to deflect this way, which means in addition to the deformation that is being produced, or we can say elongation that is being produced in this beam like this, there will be some sort of bending effect also, or we can say due to this force P there will be some moment also. So in order, so which will be in this direction, so in order to maintain the equilibrium there will be a moment in the opposite direction also, like this, which means a fixed support is subjected to three type of forces, two reaction forces and one bending moment. So we call it as M naught. Okay, so you have to remember these type of forces that you have to study in mechanics of materials. Now quickly, if we talk about equations of equilibrium also, so taking all these into account, what type of equilibrium equations that we have learned in our engineering mechanics? It is for a body to be under equilibrium which is subjected to some different type of forces, or we can say coplanar forces or collinear forces, we have got summation of forces in the x direction will be 0. Let us say, assuming body to be two-dimensional and three-dimensional both, we have got summation of Fy to be 0, summation of all the forces in y direction to be 0, and summation of all the forces in z direction will also be 0. Now always remember that there is always some bending moment or simply moment forces associated with every type of concentrated forces like this. So we also have to equate the moment also in x, y and z direction, which means that summation of mx is equal to 0, summation of my is also equal to 0, and summation of mz is also equals to 0. So this forms a complete set of equilibrium condition. These are a complete equilibrium equation for a 2D and a 3-dimensional body. Alright. So complete equation of equilibrium. You have to take into account the moments also. You cannot simply use summation of fx, fy or fz is equal to 0. You have to use this condition also. Okay. So these are the complete equations of equilibrium. All right. So what will be the complete equation if you just try to summarize it? It will be summation, let us say this is for a 3D body. Now what about 2D body? Let us quickly write up the equations of equilibrium for 2D body also. It will be summation of fx is equal to 0, summation of fy is also equal to 0, and summation of moment due to these forces about a certain point O is also equals to 0. Okay. Normally this moment we usually assume to be 0 about centroid of a body. So later on we will see this. Okay. So these are the equilibrium sets of equations that we wanted to use in case of different bodies, in which we wanted to find out what will be the internal loadings that will produce in a body at any particular sections. So we have to assume the equilibrium conditions there. So without that you will not be able to calculate the internal loadings, and on the basis of internal loadings you have to calculate the stresses also. Okay. So now see, slowly we are coming to the concept of stresses also, but in order to understand the concept of stresses, all these things are very, very important. So please remember all these things. Let us save this as stress P3. In case you guys need this note, please leave a comment in my videos, or you can email to me also, and I will put the email in the chat box. So now let us talk about internal resultant loadings, which develops the stresses inside our body and it tries to maintain the equilibrium of a body. So let us talk about internal resultant loading. See, this is very, very important. Let us talk about internal resultant loading. Okay. See, under this section, we will also be getting introduced to a special type of method that we call it as method of sections. Okay, that we call it as method of sections. We often call these methods of section. Okay, now see, normally in mechanics of materials, we have to use the principle of statics, or we can say principle of engineering mechanics, or simply equilibrium equations, in order to know the resultant loading that acts within a body. Let us say, in order to understand it, let us consider we have a body like this. Any arbitrary shaped body, we have a body like this. It is subjected to forces F1, F2, let us say force F3 and F4. Okay, let us say it is subjected to these type of forces. Now the body, definitely it is quite obvious that this, let us say this is figure number 1. It is quite obvious that the body will actually be under equilibrium under the action of these external forces F1, F2, F3 and F4. So we wanted to obtain the internal loadings that will be acting on any specific region on this body. So what we do, in order to study the internal loading that will be developed at any part of this body, we usually pass a imaginary section, or we can say we usually pass a cut through that considered region where you want to study the internal loadings. So what we do, let us say we want to study the what will be the internal loading that will be existing in this part of a body. So what we do, we pass a section like this. We pass a section like this and we divide this body into two parts. Let us say this is section X, X dash. Okay. So if we just try to see, if we just try to, let us try to make a lower half of a body, so it will somewhat look like this. It will actually somewhat look like this. Okay, it will be somewhat look like this. So this lower part, we have seen that it is already subjected to two forces F1 and F2. It will be subjected to F1 and F2. See, if we want to study what are the type of what are the internal loads that are being developed in this section due to these two forces F1 and F2. Okay, so what we see here is actually the internal forces will be distributed to, it will be distributed throughout this exposed area. Okay, so it will somewhat look like this. So all the internal loadings actually somewhat looks like this. It will be developed throughout the exposed area like this. These are the internal loadings. See, on into this into this exposed area. Now all these forces which are acting, which are internally distributed on this exposed area, these forces actually represents the effect of the forces that will be acting on the topmost part of a body. Okay, now see, if we want to know the internal, if we want to know the exact distribution of this internal loading that is being acting on this exposed area, so we can actually use the equilibrium equations to relate the to relate these external forces with these internal forces which is being developed over the exposed area. So what we do, we will use the equations of equilibrium. So later on we will see that. Let us draw this. Let us say this is figure number 2. Let us say over this exposed area, let us say this is area A dash. Over this exposed area, we use equations of equilibrium to find out the resultant of all these internal forces, which will be balancing. Obviously, these forces will be balancing these two forces F1 and F2, which are the externally applied force. So we will use equations of equilibrium. So let us say using equations of equilibrium, what we get? Using equations of equilibrium, let us say using equations of equilibrium. So let us say we assume that the overall resultant of these forces is assumed to pass through a point O. Okay, so let us say this Fr is the result algebraic summation of all these forces acting on this exposed area, and we assume to pass it through a point O. Okay, now we call this point O as the centroid of this point. So normally, in addition to this Fr, this is which is the algebraic sum of these resultant forces. I have also mentioned that before that in the equilibrium conditions there will always be some moments that is being associated with each and every force. So in addition to this, there will be a resultant moment that will be acting in this way. So if you use right hand rule, if you just try to use right hand rule, the direction of this moment will be anti-clockwise and it will be mr0, which is this resultant summation of all the moments due to the due to each and every individual forces, which means that simply if we just try to summarize, so what we can actually summarize here is, see, every resultant consists of two components. One is the algebraic sum of forces. Algebraic sum of the forces, and second is the moment summation. Okay, and second one is the moment summation. Now see, if you just wanted to see this force can actually have two components. One component, which is this Fr, will have two components. One component which will be normal to this exposed area, and there is another component which will be parallel to this exposed area, and we call this as, let us call this horizontal component by V, and let us call the vertical component by N. So if you just try to use the parallelogram law, this Fr will be the algebraic sum of this N and V. So this Fr, which is the resulting algebraic sum of all the internal forces, this has got two components. So Fr is divided into two components. One component which is normal to the exposed area. This component of force we call it as a normal force. Okay, so N is nothing but it is the normal force. Why? Because it is perpendicular to this exposed area. The other force which is just parallel to the exposed area, or which are lying in plane of this exposed area, or we can say it is acting tangentially to this parallel area, we call this as shear force. So any force which is parallel to the area considered, we call that force as shear force, which means that at every point there will be two type of forces acting simultaneously. One is one force which will be acting perpendicular to the exposed area, that we call it as normal force. The another component will be acting parallel to the exposed area, we call that component as shear force. Now in the similar manner, let us try to use a green pen. In this similar manner, this mr0 can be divided into two components. Again, one component which is perpendicular to this exposed area, we call this as, let us denote this by capital T, and another component which is just parallel to this area, we call this as MB. See, if we see that this is also the algebraic sum similar to FR. So this resultant moment is also consists of two components. Resultant moment also consists of two components. One component which is normal to the force, we call it as torsional moment. T is a normal component of moment. Normal component of moment which is perpendicular to this exposed area. So this is normal component. Now this component of moment we call it as torsional moment. See, please try to see this torsional moment. If you use right hand rule, its direction will be in this way, and if you use right hand rule here, its direction will be in this way. Okay, so there will be another component which is parallel to this exposed area, or we can say which is lying in the plane of this exposed area. We call this as MB, and it is simply the parallel component of the moment. We call it as bending moment. Now the question here is, why this normal component is known as torsional component, and why this parallel component we call it as bending moment? See, just try to see this figure. Bending moment. Please try to see this figure. You will get the answer automatically here. Okay. So see, if you just try to see this force, if you just try to see, this will actually try to twist one part of a body. It will actually try to twist the upper part of a body with respect to lower part of a body. So due to this twisting of the upper part, there will be shear stresses. So this type of twisting that is taking place in the upper part of a body with respect to the lower position, this type of force which gives rise to the twisting effect in a body, we call that force as torsional moment. So that is a reason the normal component is often responsible for creating a twisting effect in a body, and ultimately it gives rise to shear stress within the layers of the body. Now if we talk about this second component, if you just try to see, it will try to bend the lower part of a body with respect to the upper part of a body. So this parallel component is responsible to create the bending effect in a body. That is the reason we call it as bending moment. Okay. Now similar to this, if we see this normal component of force and shear component of force. See, normal component of force, there will be either extension in this direction, or if the direction of this force will be reversed, so there will be reduction in the dimension of a body in the direction of this normal force. Now if we talk about this force, it will be responsible for changing the shape of a body. Shear force changes the shape of a body. So please remember about all these concepts, and from this concept only the concept of stresses will be developed. Okay, so it changes the shape of a body. So what we have seen? We have seen that at any point, in any part of a body, if you need to find out the internal distributed loading which is being developed due to the externally force applied R, you just pass an imaginary section and divide the body into two parts. So there, at the exposed area, you just use equations of equilibrium in order to find out a net resultant force which we assume to pass through a point O, which is often referred to as centroid of a body. And in addition to this algebraic system, and in addition to this algebraic force, there will be a moment that will also be associated with this force. So we have got Fr. So at any point there will be a resultant force, and there will be a moment force that will be acting on any body of this element. Now this resultant force will have two components. One component which is normal to the force, one component which is normal to this exposed area, and it is responsible for changing the volume of a body, or we can say it is responsible for either creating an extension in a body or a compression or reduction in the size of a body. There is another component of a force which is parallel to the exposed area, or it is lying in the plane of this area. We call that component as shear force, which is normally responsible for changing the shape of a body. Similar to that, this moment force also have got two components. One component which is perpendicular to this exposed area or normal to the exposed area, we call it as torsional moment, and this torsional moment is actually responsible for creating a twisting effect in a body. The other component of moment which is parallel to this exposed area, we call that as bending moment, because this moment is responsible for creating a bending in a body. So please remember these concepts, and we will continue with our discussion in the next lecture. And if you guys have got any issues to understand these concepts, you are more than welcome to contact me. So that's all for today's lecture. Thank you and have a safe night.